Hi, so my name is Mrs. Dearlum. For those of you that don't know me, I am your AP World and or AP European History teacher. However, right now, as you probably know, I'm currently out on maternity leave. So what I wanted to do today was go over with you how do we write DBQ essays for AP History. The rules are the same for AP World and AP Euro, and for you guys that when you go on to 11th grade, it's the same rules for AP US. So that's why I'm kind of combining the two classes together rather than filming two videos of basically the same thing. But especially since both of you in World and in Euro are going to be writing a DBQ with Mr. Spano before I probably come back from maternity leave. So I thought it was a good idea for me to go through, and so you guys can hear it from me, how I expect you guys to write DBQs in my class. Now the DBQ is one of the two essays you'll be writing on the AP exams. The DBQ is mandatory, and then you'll also write an LEQ or a long essay question, but you'll get to choose which LEQ you write, where the DBQ you have no choice. And the DBQ is worth a large portion of your AP exam grade, and it's a good skill as far as being able to analyze and break down documents. So I'm gonna go through with you guys how I expect you guys to write one in my class. So step one, read the question carefully. Now, I know this sounds like a no-brainer. Of course, read the question. But you must make sure you understand correctly what the question is asking you to write before you start doing any of your steps and looking at the documents. So you want to read the essay question. You want to underline the important parts of the question. If the question has multiple parts, number the different parts. So for instance, for AP World, the DBQ that you're writing is about the silver trade. The question specifically says social and economic effects of the silver trade. So as you're going through the documents, you want to be numbering or labeling, is this a social effect or is this an economic effect? Whereas for the Euro DBQ, you're talking about women's lives changing as a result of World War I. You're just looking for changes as you're going through the document. So what historical thinking skill is being addressed is something you want to think about. Is it comparison? Is it change? Change in continuity over time, or is it causation? So again, for AP World, it's a causation essay because it's social and economic effects, which would fall under causation. And for Euro, you guys are writing a change in continuity over time because you're looking at how the lives of women were altered as a result of World War I. So after you read the question, now this is very important. You want to take a few seconds to ask yourself, what is the question asking me to answer? It might also be a good idea to put the question into your own words so you're sure you understood and have processed the question itself. For those of you who don't know, I'm a reader for the College Board. So the past, I think it's now 11 years, I can't even remember how long it's been, I grade the AP exams for AP World. And the biggest mistake I see that kids make on the actual AP exam is misreading the question and writing an essay not actually addressing the prompts. So we want to make sure that that never happens to you in my class, in Mr. Simone's class next year in AP US, or God forbid on any of your AP exams. So once you've read the question, you have to start thinking about how you're going to develop your argument, which is the whole center of the essay itself. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to brainstorm. Before you read the documents, think of what you already know about the topic or the time period. What do you know about the silver trade, or just in general, the age of exploration and all the trade that began as a result of contact between the Eastern and Western hemispheres? Or what do you know about World War I and the roles that women played in World War I? If you can't think of anything immediately, like nothing immediately pops into your head, look at the source info for the documents themselves, because this would help you to kind of jog your memory. And this info will also help you to identify your supporting evidence. So once you've kind of done that, you've thought a little bit about the question itself, what's being asked, how you could answer this question if you didn't have any documents, then you're going to move on to the next step, which would actually be writing down what you already know. Because this is going to help you to provide a framework for your argument, to help you determine contextualization, or big C. Contextualization is your first body paragraph of your essay, where you have to give background information to the conditions leading up to the question that's being asked. So for the Euro DBQ, you're going to be talking a little bit about World War I. For the World DBQ, you might be talking about Ming China, or you might be talking about the Age of Exploration or Spanish colonies. You also need to start thinking about your supporting evidence and your outside information that you're also going to need that's a point on the rubric. It might also be helpful as you're listening to this video to have a copy of the rubric for the DBQ out in front of you, which is on my Schoology page. So the next thing you're going to do after you've brainstormed is you are going to analyze the documents themselves. So when looking at the documents, you want to look at who the author is, the date of the document, the context for the document before you read the document. The context being like when you look at the date, or you look at what the source is, what do you know about that time period? This will help you to have a better understanding of the document and its historical context, which is little c, not to be confused with contextualization, which is big C. So as you read the document, this is important, I want you to write down a brief summary of the document in your own words. This will help you to earn the describes point because you basically have to prove to the reader you understand the document. So taking a couple of seconds to jot it down into your own words is going to help you do that. You also want to label what part of the question does this document address. So for AP World, is this a social effect or an economic effect? Or is this a cause? Because if it's a cause, that might be something you could use later as a complexity point. If it's AP Euro, is this a change? Or is this showing that attitudes are not changing towards women? Is it a continuity? Think about that as you're going through the documents. The next thing you need to do is think about the sourcing of your documents. And this is where HIP comes in. And I know you guys learned about this last year in Ms. Canone or Mr. Costello's class. You need to source at least 5 documents in your written analysis. Now, Dr. Costello or Ms. Canone might have required you to do less last year, but now in my class, you're going to have to do 5. So you're going to analyze each document the best you can using HIP. And HIP, of course, stands for historical context, intended audience, purpose, and point of view. And I'll go into a little more in a second what exactly all those things mean. You do not have to include all elements of HIP in your actual written essay. But in this brainstorming phase, you want to try to do all parts of HIP. You might see, though, as you're writing, that one document lends itself better to historical context and another document lends itself better to a discussion of purpose. That's fine. You want to try to, at least in this brainstorming phase, do all of it, do all parts of HIP, because you might need to see what works out better for the different documents. Now, also, on the day that you write this essay in class, you will be allowed to have your document packet with you that all of this information should be on there. Your HIPs, your summaries of the documents, your jotting down of your thesis. You can have all of those things in class with you the day that you write your DBQ essay. What you can't do, though, is have a completely written essay. You can't have your notes on a separate sheet of paper. Everything has to be contained within the document packet. And again, like I said, you can't, throughout the documents have written basically the whole essay out, because I am collecting that and we'll see if you did that, and you will not be getting, your points will be penalized because basically you copied the essay. But you can have your notes. So that's why I want you to try to use all parts of HIP. You can use the same element for HIP for all 5 of your documents once you're actually writing the essay. For instance, you might only discuss historical context or only discuss purpose. That's fine. Or one document you might use historical context, one you might use intended audience, one you might use purpose, one you might use point of view. That's fine as well. But you must connect your analysis of HIP to the overall argument of the essay. Telling me who that author is or the time period surrounding when that document is written is great, but if you don't connect it back to what does it mean to the outcome of the essay and your argument, then it makes no sense. So if you can't connect it to how this is showing women's lives changing in World War I or social and economic effect of the silver trade, then it's not useful information. Now, when you're sourcing documents for the DBQ, keep in mind, historical context basically is, what do you know about the time and place in which the source was created? So what do you know about what was going on during this time period? What contemporary, meaning events happened at that time, might have impacted the message and or the author or creator's perspective? Then you want to look at intended audience. Who is the document intended for? Like, who is this document written for? How might the intended audience impact what is being discussed or depicted, and or how it is being discussed or depicted? The purpose. Why was this source created? What is the author trying to accomplish with this source? And then finally, point of view. What do you know about the creator of this source, who the author is? How might who they are impact what they are saying in the source? So for AP World, is the author Chinese or is the author Spanish? Is the author English? How would that affect the meaning of the document? For the Euro essay, is it a woman? What class is she? Is she someone that would have been working, or is she someone that would have not been working during this time period? Is it a politician? What are they trying, how is that going to affect what they're saying? So that's what you want to think about with point of view, who kind of the author is itself. Once you've kind of gone through all of your documents and you've jot down and your document packet is filled with little notes and scribbles, depending on the type of historical thinking skill, meaning is it a comparative essay, is it a change in continuity over time essay, or is it a causation essay, you will want to organize or group your documents in one of the following ways to help you develop your thesis statement and organize your evidence for the essay. So, if it's a change in continuity essay, so for the Euro kids, you're placing the sources in chronological order, allows you to identify the changes in the continuities. And you want to try to determine the context explaining why those changes occurred. Now, since this question specifically just says, how did war alter the lives of women? If you could discuss how war did not really alter the lives of women, that could help you to earn something called the complexity point. Comparison, so you're talking similarities and differences. So you want to group your documents by similarities or group your documents by differences. Now, this is not going to apply for either of your first DBQs, but eventually you're going to get a DBQ that has a comparison in it as well. And if the question is only asking for similarities and you could also discuss differences, that could help you get the complexity point and vice versa. Now, causation, which is what you're writing in AP World, depending on whether you're being asked to identify causes or effects, you will want to group your documents by short-term and long-term causes and effects, or by political, social, and or economic causes and effects. Now, the World essay, the way it's written, is specifically asking for social and economic, so you're not worried about political. You're going to use your brainstorm and your analysis of the sources to guide the approach you take. Some prompts and sources lend themselves more to a consideration of long-term versus short-term causes and effects, while others break down more naturally into a consideration of social, political, economic causes and effects. Again, for this essay, you're focusing on social and economic. So these are two ways that you can kind of lay it out, long-term versus short-term, and the documents that would support that, or for you guys for World, social and economic, and you're just basically focusing on effects, but if you can bring in any information about causes, that would also help you to earn the complexity point. Once you've gone through all of this, then you're going to write your thesis. Now, in English class, your thesis is it's a thesis statement. In this class, your thesis is basically going to be your whole first paragraph of your essay. So you want to think about the historical thinking skill that is being addressed, identify what the issue is, what were the social and economic effects, or did war really change the lives? Did World War I really change the lives of women? You're going to state your position. What do you think were the social and economic effects of the silver trade? Or what do you think the major changes that occurred as a result of World War I for women? And then you're going to provide your rationale, provide the most compelling reasons for why, what you identified as the social and economic effects, or what you identified as the changes in women. Once you've done all of this, and this is all going to have been done before you come in to write the essay. So all of this, steps 1 through 5, all this stuff for your brainstorming and your analysis of the documents, developing your argument, all of that is going to be done before you come into class the day that you're writing this essay. So on the day that you're writing this essay, you have to think about a couple of things that need to be included in your essay. So you should have your thesis written out ahead of time so you kind of have an idea of where you're going with your argument, because the thesis really becomes your map of what the essay is going to look like. So the first body paragraph that you are going to have is what we call your contextualization paragraph, or big C. This paragraph will include no documents. You will explain the historical background leading up to the issue being asked in the essay prompt. This should be multiple sentences, but what I don't want you to do is give me like massive amounts of historical information and write a contextualization paragraph that is like a page and a half long, because then you're really just kind of going almost like too far above and beyond, and you're wasting time given the fact that you only have 40 minutes to write this essay, and you got a lot of things you got to accomplish in that 40 minutes. So it should be multiple sentences, but it doesn't need to fill up a whole page. And this is its own distinct point on the DBQ rubric and is separate from the outside evidence point. So this does not count as outside evidence. This is its own separate thing, contextualization. Again, if you look at the rubric that's on Schoology, you'll notice there on that rubric that contextualization is first and then the thesis is second, but when you write the essay, thesis will go first and then contextualization paragraph will go second. So again, if you're writing this for AP World and you're talking about the social and economic effects of the silver trade, well, what were the conditions that led up to the silver trade even being in existence? Now, the big thing, of course, is the age of exploration and the fact that the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere found out that they existed and they began trading with each other, because it's going to be silver from the Spanish colonies in the Americas that's going to be being traded in large numbers to the Chinese. That would not have happened without the age of exploration and the discovery of the Americas for the Europeans. It also would not have happened without certain political and economic situations going on within the Ming Dynasty itself. So that's where you want to start for your contextualization paragraph for AP World. For AP Euro, the big thing is World War I. So you can go into a brief description of maybe the causes of World War I, or the fact that the drawing of soldiers and so many young men to the front meant that there wasn't enough workers and women had to enter into the workforce in a much larger scale than they ever had before. But you got to give some background as to what was happening leading up to the conditions of women going basically to work. So once you've written that paragraph, then you're going to go into your other body paragraphs that are going to be your argument development. This is where you're going to be actually using your documents. Your body paragraphs will develop the argument presented in your thesis. So you're then providing evidence and analysis from the sources in the documents and also your outside knowledge. You need to have two pieces of distinct outside knowledge, not drawn from the documents in any way, shape, or form, that would relate to the question that is being asked. So you want to think about these 8 things as you are writing your body paragraphs. What exactly is your argument? And you want to be developing that argument that you put forth in that thesis statement. So what evidence do you have from the documents or from your own outside information that will actually support your argument? So you want to integrate the knowledge from the documents, your outside information, to help strengthen your argument. How does my evidence support or qualify my argument? Pretty much what I just said. Analyze your evidence explaining how it supports your qualification or position. How does this particular document prove what you feel are the social effects of the silver trade? What is the significance of the argument in this paragraph? And you want to tie everything back to your thesis. Now, this little graphic here may or may not help you, but you want to think about it as everything starts and ends with your thesis statement. So if you're playing a game of baseball and you hit a home run, you want to get around all the bases, starting at home and ending at home, which is your thesis statement. So your thesis is your starting point for outlining your argument. Every paragraph is going to support your thesis. You're going to break down your thesis statement into supporting arguments. So every topic sentence of your argument paragraphs, not the contextualization paragraph, but your argument paragraphs, are going to start with breaking down your thesis statement. What in this paragraph is going to be demonstrated to prove your thesis? Develop the argument you are making in support of your thesis by providing context for your argument to the reader, introducing specific evidence from your knowledge of the documents to support the claim you are making, and analyze or explain how the evidence you introduced supports your argument. And I have here, a good argument, like a home run, will end where it started, by explaining the significance of the point developed to your thesis statement. So you should have a topic sentence. How is this document relating to and supporting my thesis statement? And a concluding sentence further backing that up. Key things to keep in mind about this. You must describe, all of your DBQ essays this year are going to have 7 documents. You must describe 6 out of the 7 documents to earn that describe point. However, if you have the time, now again, it's a timed writing situation, so if you have the time, try to use all 7 documents. That way, in case you misinterpret a document, you have a little insurance policy and you can still get the point. You must use 6 documents in support of your argument to achieve the supports point. So the same thing goes here. If you only introduce 6 documents and you omit one document completely in your essay, and then you mess up and you misinterpret one of the documents, now you've only accurately described and supported 5 documents, and now you can't get the full points. You must source at least 5 documents to earn the point. That means using HIP. In addition to the contextualization paragraph, you must have 2 additional pieces of outside information. You must engage with the documents rather than simply summarizing them. It's not enough just to mention the source in passing. You must explain how it supports the argument you are making. So if you're discussing historical context in HIP, and you could talk about the background to that particular document, but you can't relate it to how it's altering the lives of women or the social and economic effects of the silver trade, it doesn't mean anything. If all you can do is tell me what the document is saying, but not saying how this relates to your thesis statement, then you can't get all the points available. Please do not state in document number 1, it says. It's like nails on chalkboard to me. Please introduce the document by either the author or the name of the document and finish the sentence with a citation. It's very important that you cite the documents in parentheses at the end of the sentence, not saying in document number 1. Don't forget to cite your documents, because by not citing the documents, you're just making it more difficult for me, the reader, to be able to acknowledge all the things you did and give you all of the points that you earned. Paraphrase, and please do not quote, because when you quote, you are not showing you understand the document, you're just showing me that you can copy words off a page. So then if you quote, you're still then going to have to paraphrase the document, and again, you only have 40 minutes to write this essay, so now you're just wasting your own time trying to get through everything. Now, I mentioned the complexity point, now I'm going to go into a little more detail about it. There's multiple ways to achieve the complexity point. Part of it is really just how well did you achieve your goal of supporting your thesis statement clearly throughout and consistently throughout the essay. That can help you get the complexity point, depending on the prompt. So for the world prompt, which is talking about social and economic effects, if you could talk about social and economic causes of the silver trade, or a political effect of the silver trade, bring in another theme, that could help you earn the points. If you're writing the essay about women, and you can also mention about how lives of women didn't really change much at all as a result, and be able to back that up, that could also be used to help you earn the complexity point. You can also get the point if you make the connection to another part of the world that is undergoing a similar situation. So if you could talk about how the silver trade is impacting places that were not mentioned in the document itself, that could help you earn the point. If you could talk about how the world, a similar situation, but in a different time period. So for the silver trade essay, if you could talk about a different trading system from a different time period, that could help you get the complexity point. You could also do that with women, how are lives of women altered today, or how were lives of women altered as a result of, say, World War II, or in a previous time period. That could also help you to earn the complexity point. Now, the conclusion. The conclusion is going to recap the argument you made, Discuss the significance of the broader historical trajectory of which your argument was a part. On the AP exam, this is a second opportunity for you to earn the point for thesis. On the AP exam, if the introduction doesn't have a good thesis, but your conclusion does, you can still get the point for thesis. This does not hold true in my class because you would have had the question ahead of time, you would have written out a thesis statement, you would have brought it with you to class, and it would have been written on your document packet. So you got to get it in the introductory paragraph. But I want you to get into the habit of writing that conclusion because it's a worthwhile exercise. So in an in-class essay, if you are writing all the way up to the bell and you don't have time to write a conclusion, that's fine because you wrote all the way up to the bell. You're frantically trying to get some complexity points or you're trying to get your last document in, you don't get to the conclusion, fine. However, if you hand your essay in before the bell rings, and I will put a little mark on it as you hand in your essay, and there's no conclusion, I'm taking 5 points off your essay. This won't happen the first essay you write, so Mr. Spano's not going to do this for this first DBQ, but after that, I will start doing this. You'll get a warning the first time, and then after, we will start taking the 5 points off. So I don't want you just being like, all right, I'm done. I got 5 minutes left. I want to sit on my phone. I don't want to bother writing the conclusion, and you just hand it in. If you got 5 minutes, even if you got 30 seconds, you got to try to write some sort of conclusion. So if you have any questions about these DBQs, don't hesitate to email me. My email is cdearlum@sawanacaschools.org. Even though I'm on maternity leave, I'm still here to help you guys. I'm still your teacher, and I'll be your teacher for the majority of the school year. I will be checking my email regularly. However, also keep in mind that I'm going to be dealing with a screaming newborn, so I don't know how regularly that's going to be. Do not wait till late at night the day before the essay is due. So don't email me at like midnight the day before you got to write the essay and expect me to be able to get back to you in time. You got to give me at least a day. Again, remember, I have a screaming newborn. So, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. Ask Mr. Spano, ask Ms. Canone, ask Dr. Costello, see if they can help you out. But first come to me. If you have any questions, you don't understand a document, you want me to explain something to you, I'll be more than happy to help you. So I look forward to meeting you all when I come back from maternity leave, and I hope that this helps you all be successful on your first DBQ essay.